So facing the blank page can be daunting and demotivating. I would sit there sometimes for hours thinking about how I can even start my next screenplay. Now, you may already have some ideas in your mind, or you might not have anything at all. Either way, this video will teach you how I'm able to catch great ideas and quickly start writing my next screenplay by using a quick 3-step framework that I like to call the Jaws effect, which is all about stealing like a pro. So, we've all heard of this saying before: good artists borrow, great artists steal. Well, that was actually said by Pablo Picasso. And I'm sure you already know what it means, but what he's basically saying is that everyone takes ideas from other people. Ideas never come from nowhere. So they must always come from somewhere else, right? But the average artists are the ones that takes things, but when you go to see their work, people will still refer that idea to the original person. Whereas a great artist will take an idea from someone else and then they will make it their own. So, in other words, they now own that new idea. And that's what the goal of this video is to help you do. So the first thing I want you to do is to change the way you look at creativity. So David Lynch, a great filmmaker, explained how catching great ideas is kind of like catching fish. So I want you to imagine that you take your fishing rod and you hook it out at sea. That's you doing the work before you have any inspiration. So when you feel you have a catch, you reel the fishing rod back in to see what you've caught. It might be a small fish, a bad fish, or a good fish. That fish you caught is the idea that you managed to catch. But how good of an idea you catch is out of your control. But what is in your control is doing the work first and hooking your rod out at sea. So, in other words, do the work first, then the inspiration will come. So, step one is reeling out the hook. So, I came across this interview with Quentin Tarantino, who was giving a lecture to a group of young students about becoming a filmmaker. When asked about how he comes up with fresh ideas, what he said was that you need to ask yourself, what movie would you like to see that hasn't been made yet? And then when he said that to me, I literally did 4 things. So the 4 things I did was I watched a ton of films, I identified what sparked my interest, I then analyzed why I liked those things, and then as I analyzed, I'd write down better ideas if I had any. And what I didn't realize was that what I did there was exactly what every successful screenwriter does to catch ideas. They steal from others. Your first actionable step is to reel your hook out and see what fish you can catch. And you do that by following the same 4 steps that I did. So take the ideas that you love from different films and scripts, you look at it, and then organize it into a list. You should end up with a big list of all the films, characters, plot points, and even lines of dialogue that you like. You can also add notes, ideas, and even better ideas to expand upon. Step 2, structuring your ideas. So as you start listing moments from films that you love, you want to start looking for connections from one scene to the next. Each of these moments that you're stealing is a potential tool for your story. But what do I mean by that? So you've probably noticed in other films that they've used things that's been used many times before, right? But why does it still work for them? So this is the distinction between copying and stealing. So I want you to think about it like a maths equation where each number represents an idea. So if you add 1 add 2, you get 3, obviously. The number 1 and 2 are different ideas you have stolen, and the number 3 is a new idea. However, number 3 is an idea we have seen many times before. But if you add 1, add 4, add 7, for example, you'll get a new number. Your goal is to have that final number be something that has not been seen before. So to achieve this, you need to grab a pen and paper and write out the first idea that you really want to steal. Then write therefore or but between ideas that you think you can join. So this is called the connecting bridge. And having these words in between each of your idea is going to shape your story so that it unfolds neatly to your audience. This is how people create new ideas based on the ideas that have come before. No ideas come from nowhere, remember this. They all derive from someplace else. Your actionable step for this is after you've got your list of ideas that you want to steal, you must find a thread between each idea that can potentially be shaped into a story. Can you connect things together? So use the connecting bridge. Does each idea unfold into each subsequent point? This is very important to do because a good story has to unfold and not just be a series of events happening. If you feel as though you are catching new ideas whilst doing this, Don't be afraid to write that down too. Step 3, finding your voice. You've gathered your ideas and now hopefully you've started writing a few scenes out. It's exciting, it's scary, and it'll be a lot of fun to film. But what is it about emotionally? What is the theme of your story? Personalizing the story that you've developed is very important. What your story is truly about will determine how it will be made. So look at it this way. What you've created so far is a bunch of ideas that you've tied together into a rough script. You've hooked your audience into the cinema seats with a fun idea that you've stolen. But to stop the popcorn from reaching the mouth, you need to bury something unconventional beneath the surface that will provoke a startling feeling to the audience. So to do that, finding your voice. Your voice is determined by a bunch of factors. So how your film is cast, how it looks, how it's edited, how the titles look, how it's musically scored. These choices are determined by one simple question. What is your screenplay really about? So, to give you an example, a story could be about a robbery heist that goes wrong, but what it's really about is betrayal within a dysfunctional father son relationship. Now, I call this part the subtext work. Here, you'll want to take an important scene that you've written that includes two of your main characters, and you want to try and look at what's beyond the obvious. So, for example, I want you to start with writing what does character one want from this scene more than anything in the world? Two, what does character two want from this scene more than anything in the world? And then three, what do you, the storyteller, want the audience to take away from this scene? Write this down on paper, and once you've got your answers, soon enough you'll begin to realize what the true meaning of your story is. This is a great step to making your screenplay personal to you. The writing process will also become easier for you at this point onwards. And usually, what you find is that it's related to something personal to your life. And the more personal you make your story, the more it will resonate with more people. So, for your final actionable step, I want you to establish what your story is about on the surface, so the plot. Then find out what your story is really about. So grab a pen and paper or do it on your computer and do the subtext work. If you can't figure out the subtext, then spend more time writing your screenplay before you go back to this. So just remember, if you're facing the blank page and you want to start writing, just start by taking ideas from the films that you love and organize it into a list. Add notes, ideas, and even better ideas to expand upon. Then use the connective bridge to find a thread between each of your ideas to start shaping it into a story. And as you start writing, you should start writing in more and more of your own ideas until eventually your script will be totally different to anything else. Now, as you go through this, do your subtext work to find out what exactly your story is really about. And if you're not sure what that is, then just keep doing the work. You might eventually catch a really good fish.